How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we're going to be looking at some Game Week 33 plus wildcard drafts. I have 4 of them ready and available. So without further ado, let's take a look at what they have to offer. So with all of these drafts, we're going to be going for a 3-5-2 formation. They're going to be mainly focused on Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. And the midfield is going to be obviously super stacked with that 5-man midfield. Typically, we're going to be having midfielders that are well over 7 million. And we're going to be playing all of them game in, game out. And the drafts are going to be somewhere around 104 million. Some, I think, are around 103.6, 103.7, 103.8. They're going to be in that ballpark, but 104 million would definitely get you these drafts. So the first draft you can see over to my left, it's 103.8 million. And with all of these drafts I've had, I made sure that the captaincy was covered for the rest of the game weeks, whether it be a Liverpool player, Manchester City player, Man United player. You have basically all of those options there. Starting down the back, we have obviously Ederson in goal. He's a very good set and forget keeper till the end. He's going to get you clean sheets. They have great fixtures up until the very end of the season, where there's going to be no worries that Ederson might concede more than 2. And City, the way they played tonight versus Liverpool, showed that they want to obviously end the season strong going into the Champions League. As with their ban looming, it might be the last time that they get to play in it for the next year or 2, even if they get the maximum sentence for that. We've also gone with one of each Manchester United player, just kind of to balance out the team. Wan-Bissaka's got 2 assists and 2 clean sheets and 2. Bruno Fernandes got a brace in the last game, obviously playing fantastically. Rashford in the game before got 2 assists, is still unlucky not to have a goal, but I think against Bournemouth, he just has to basically take the footage from St. Maximin and what he did in their 4-1 victory over Bournemouth for Newcastle, and just kind of copy that, and he'll basically do fine. If Newcastle's scoring 4, then United's probably going to end up scoring like 6 or 8 or something like that. But who knows? We'll have to see how that goes. And then also, we wanted to go with a team that's kind of strong overall. Maybe there's some considered weak links, like you might think Connolly might get rotated. Maybe Nketiah is obviously seeing some rotation. But I think most of these players will get bench minutes, or like they'll get team minutes, whether it be a start as well. Just game in, game out. I think that all of them are going to be good going forward. I think all of them are going to see significant play time. I think if you had to bet them over 3 games, probably most of them will start 2 out of the 3, which is kind of what you're looking for. And most of them will see 60 minutes almost every game, which is obviously what you want. And it's going to be kind of good to see some players come 60, 65 minutes, clean sheets still going, and they get taken off and they get to keep their clean sheet. It's going to be fantastic when that does happen. We do have Van Dijk in there, who's going to be our double Liverpool defense, along with Salah, who is one of our potential captaincy choices. I think that he could also be like Doherty or Digne or another expensive defender. You can even potentially go for double United defense if you wanted to go for, swap out Ederson and maybe put in like Sterling or something like that. That's another thing you can do. I haven't had that in one of the drafts, but that's just something I was kind of thinking. Mainly because Liverpool's defense obviously wasn't great tonight versus Man City. However, he's going to be one of those players that's probably going to play game in, game out, especially with the likes of Matip, who's out for the season. So he's probably going to be their rock when they go up against the lesser teams that have to play for the rest of the season. And he's going to be vitally important if they want to be able to go on and win the games they need to get those records. And lastly, you just want to be with this team. I was just going for consistency. Players that are playing well, they get consistent minutes, they get consistent returns, and they just have great fixtures for the rest of the season. I thought that this team looked quite balanced, and for 103.8 million, I think it's a pretty solid lineup if I were to wildcard into this team if I had it available. Now with my second draft team, this comes in at 103.6 million. It's a very high risk, high reward team. The defense is slightly weaker than what it normally would be. However, it kind of boosts that out with the triple Man United attack. So we've gone for a double Spurs defense. Now Spurs conceded 3 versus Sheffield United, but I think that may have been potentially a one-off. They looked pretty good in their previous game. However, their attack doesn't look great. So maybe they just are going to be like good for clean sheets. I'm not too sure. If anything, you're going to be looking at Lloris or Aurier would be the defense that you'd be looking at, because everyone else just looks atrocious. At least Aurier can get you attacking returns. I think just they were caught out, and I think that Vertonghen and Alderweireld just need to start playing if Spurs want to basically start picking up some points and potentially get back into Europe positions, because they're currently, I think it's like 8th or 9th, which is just not great for them, especially with the the transfers they brought in. They have Mourinho, the big name manager, so there may be something there. So it would definitely be a punt for sure. And Kane obviously likes scoring against Everton historically, so potentially you could swap out Jesus and maybe downgrade somebody somewhere and bring in Kane. That this is the more risky team. This would be more of a potentially a free hit team, but Spurs do have some decent fixtures going forward, so I think it's not terrible if you're thinking of this idea. And like I said, we have the triple Man United attack with Martial, Fernandes, and Rashford. Those three are going to be probably the most involved, mainly because Rashford kind of creates from the left, Bruno creates centrally, and Martial creates down the middle. United typically doesn't create from the right. In most cases, they're more central and left-sided. Bruno typically kind of comes off the right sometimes, which kind of covers all the grounds. But these three seem to be the most active and are going to be scoring the most points probably for Manchester United going forward. With this team as well, you'll notice that we also have Lascelles, Saiss, and Holgate. So these three have a very good rotation in terms of their fixtures. We have Lascelles in there just because he has the better on paper home fixture this week. But I think going forward, you could potentially put in Holgate for some fixtures because he has a few good ones throughout the rest of the season. You have Saiss, who is just in a Wolves team that's got 2 and 2 clean sheets, so he's quite good at 4.7 million. And I think lastly, there could be some rotation for this team in midfield and attack. So you can switch it to a 3-4-3 if you think Connolly. So if you think Connolly has a better fixture versus Norwich, you can play him over Foden, because Foden did play all the minutes tonight versus Liverpool, so he may not play, or he may come off the bench versus Southampton. He might not even play at all, so Connolly might be starting versus Norwich, who concede goals for fun, so it might be quite good there. But then going forward, you can kind of see where Foden's going to play and kind of guess. Obviously it's very hard with Pep Roulette, but it is something to kind of think about. And like I said, this is a high risk, high reward team. If you need to kind of catch up elsewhere, you can kind of go for these like cheaper options and go for just all out United attack and go for the riskier players. Like Jesus as an example, I would consider a risk mainly in this team because of him getting taken off pre-60 minutes tonight. Maybe he's trying to be preserved because they only have one out and out striker, but he didn't start the previous game and it's kind of a bit wonky there. And then obviously you don't know what consistent minutes Foden's going to get, and then obviously with the rotating defenders you can always get it wrong if you're rotating between three, just like you could for a rotating goalkeeper. But at 103.6 million, I think it's not a bad team. It's definitely a risky team, but it's quite exciting. I think you have a lot of fun playing with this team and managing it for the rest of the season. Now the third draft that I have is bang right in the middle of the two other price points at 103.7 million, and again we have the captaincy covered overall. Now with this team, I went for basically the most potential potent midfield that you could get on paper, and I kind of spread it across the four teams in Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. And the reason I kind of did this was because I wanted to see how much of like the more like threatening players or the more like lethal players are, or the ones that are on form at the moment would be to bring in the team. So like Martial just scored a hat-trick, not in the last game but in the previous game before that, and still looks a threat. Pulisic, every time he gets the ball, he's running at defenders and taking them on. Riyad Mahrez, obviously, he scored recently as well. Kevin De Bruyne is obviously fantastic. Salah scored in the first game, then he came back in. So, and all of these guys can easily be captained depending on their fixture as well. We've also, obviously, like I said, we have Pulisic in there over the likes of potentially someone like Bruno Fernandes. He obviously comes in at a little bit cheaper. It allows for us to go with somebody else up front like Raul Jimenez. And I think that he's just a fantastic asset at his price point. And I think he's going to be basically a set and forget for Lampard, assuming he doesn't get injured for the rest of the season, because him and Willian are kind of like the only two really doing anything, and it's going to be very exciting to see what their team kind of evolves into when they get Ziyech and Werner next season and kind of integrate Pulisic in there, because he is a very high impact player and can be quite lethal on his day. And we went for a more budget-oriented defense as well. You only rotate between two defenders here. I think Saiss has good enough fixtures for the rest of the season where you can kind of just keep him in there as your third defender. But Lascelles and Taylor kind of rotate quite nicely. There's only, I believe, one out of the remaining game weeks where they kind of have both that kind of like a easy fixture, and you kind of have to pick between the two. But nonetheless, you should find good value in both of them as they're both priced at 4.3 million. We also have, obviously, Raul Jimenez, who wasn't in our previous two teams. He obviously blanked this week, having scored 2 goals over the previous 2 games before that. He is what we like to call a shield. He's someone that is very high owned. A lot of teams are going to have him, and if you don't have him and he does score, you get punished for it significantly more than another player would normally. And then lastly, we have the kind of the most sought after, the most like playing City members in my opinion. You have Kevin De Bruyne, who's basically starts every game when fit in normal circumstances. Ederson is their number 1 keeper, and Riyad Mahrez has seen the most minutes in the Premier League out of all the other midfielders other than Kevin De Bruyne since the restart. So I think those 3 are the best coverage for City. And I think that for 103.7 million, this is a very good team, very threatening midfield. And with these combination of midfielders, you may find that people inside the top 10K, maybe like 1%, maybe 2%, I don't know the exact figures, but a very low percentage will have this combination of potency, especially having a wild card for this, and you could find yourself shooting up the ranks going on till the rest of the season. And with our 4th and final draft, it comes in at 103.8 million, slightly more expensive than the other 3. And our captaincy is covered much like the rest of them in our 3-5-2 formation, with having Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, and either Wolves or Chelsea assets in the team. In goal, we have Patricio. He's kind of just going to be our solid clean sheet magnet. Obviously, his fixture on paper in Game Week 33 doesn't look great versus Arsenal. However, Arsenal only scored 1 goal in their previous games before they beat Norwich, and I think that he's just going to be very good going forward. Luca Digne in a defense comes in at a differential for Everton. After Spurs away, they have a pretty smoothish sailing, and they're going to be looking for potential Europa League spots, and I think with a defender that's on set pieces, he's going to be slightly less than the likes of Laporte or players like that, and has probably just as decent of fixtures. I think he could be a unique differential, and I kind of slotted them in there over the likes of Alonso because the West Ham game just didn't show me much for Chelsea apart from the likes of Christian Pulisic. Moving on to the midfield, we have triple City midfield in Phil Foden, Riyad Mahrez, and Kevin De Bruyne. When it comes to picking the midfield, the attack, and defense, and this entire team, this draft here, I was looking mainly at the eye test. So what basically I saw in the games in terms of how potent the player looks, how active on the ball they are, how involved in the play they are, how often they get in the box. And the likes of Foden, Mahrez, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Salah, Rashford, Jimenez, they're all getting in the box. They're all trying to make things happen. And with the likes of our fullbacks, they're the ones kind of making the crosses, and getting those assists, which is what we want out of our defenders. And Patricio's just solid, and with the defense that he has in front of him, I see no why they couldn't get clean sheets. It does also, with this team, leave room for potential shuffling if you need to. So Digne's at a price point where you could potentially slightly downgrade him and then slightly upgrade Foden for somebody else as well. For the likes of Bruno Fernandes, if he potentially, is seeing more rotation or something, you could potentially rotate him out for the likes of Martial, an easy swap there. Jimenez can be slightly downgraded to Ings if Ings starts to, score more and more, and maybe just Wolves aren't playing as well. And overall, I just think this team just has quite a high threat level. I think this midfield is somewhat risky in terms of like Foden as well as the likes of Digne in Everton's kind of inconsistencies this season. But since Ancelotti's come in, I think he's going to be, quite solid. I think the team is solid. And with Foden playing, starting tonight versus Liverpool, and Sané having signed for Bayern, I think that those two aren't really risky. They're kind of swords in a way. We mentioned shields before in the previous team. Well, a sword is basically something that is someone who's probably very low owned and just basically looks a threat, and if they score, they're going to benefit you massively, and that's what's going to get you the green arrow if you decide to select this team. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a comment down below as to which team you're potentially looking at for Game Week 33 plus, whether you're on a wildcard, free hit, or just looking to do some transfers. Keeping the comments interactive is a fun thing to see, and I enjoy talking to people about decisions that they may have for the game week. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We're going to be posting a lot of videos of FPL being back, with the Premier League being back, and it's fantastic to see the support that we've already been getting. And make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you can get the latest videos when they are available. Also, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226 on both of those platforms. That's where we post our videos, as well as post when we're we're doing our FPL streams. I'm going to be doing a stream tomorrow, being the recording. It's going to be the 3rd of July. It's going to be around midday EST. I'm not entirely sure yet. It depends on what I have to do tomorrow, so we're going to kind of look at that there. But definitely there will be a stream. I usually post on Twitter, like I said, so make sure to follow us there when we do go live. And that's going to be our Game Week 33 discussion, so you can see kind of our predictions for the score lines, as well as what I'm going to be doing with my team, because I have some very interesting stuff that I could be doing with this game week. So that's going to do it. Hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next one, take care.